a playlist original.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaius and Jackson. It's another week of dense movie news from the last week. Kind of starting on a sad note, we wanted to address this off the bat. For those of you, many of you know, on Friday, we get the very sad news that screen legend Carl Weathers unfortunately passed away. He just turned 76 earlier on January the 14th of this year. Very sad for that news. Yeah, wanted to get that out at the front of this episode. We got a lot of other positive stuff, but it was kind of a sad weekend with that news. Carl Weathers has been an actor I've admired for a long time, and I know probably Gaius, you even more. You've seen more performances of his than I had, but I was curious. I put a poll up there for anybody that wants to go check it out. Was curious what your favorite performance of his was.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised when I heard it because he's been on The Mandalorian, so I kind of
Right.
And I didn't have any indication that he was sick or anything. And like I said, we don't really know how he passed away. His family just said that he passed away peacefully in his sleep. And that's pretty much all we really need to know because it's really not our business. But I grew up before Rocky, I guess. I grew up on Predator. So that was the first thing I really remember him from. And I guess
probably the same for me too.
And his now kind of iconic intro with Arnold Schwarzenegger when they kind of it's not really a handshake, but it's they kind of make fun of it in a lot of stuff where it's they kind of lock and it's huge biceps. That whole movie is all sweaty muscles and biceps.
That image of their big biceps locking, that has been such a great timeless meme over the last few years. I've actually sent that with different contexts to friends several times. It's an in joke with the gym buddy of mine too, Alex, on the chance that you're listening to this. We still quote that Dylan, you son of a bitch, and then we do the high five at the gym all the time. He was part of so many timeless movies. But that's a great point.
Yeah, and lived a very full life. Had a really interesting, fun career. I mean, a lot of people, you can do all the Rocky films that he appeared in, Happy Gilmore, Action Jackson, Arrested Development. And then of course he kind of had a new kind of lease on his career with The Mandalorian, and that was pretty popular, and a lot of people loved him on that. And then it was nice to see a lot of celebrities that came out and said things about him after his passing, with Sylvester Stallone with being one of them, Arnold Schwarzenegger, even Gina Carano, who worked with him. I guess how she got
unceremoniously
fired from The Mandalorian, and there's a lot of she doesn't have all nice words for a lot of people that were involved in that. But she said that he was one of the people that did call her and told her never to give up, and so she had positive things to say about it as well. So that was nice to see. Because I was like, I wonder when I saw her name pop up as one of the people, I was like, oh god, what'd she say? And then I was like, oh good. I was like, good, it was positive.
But I did not know about him at all was that he had a football career before he switched to acting. He played for the Oakland Raiders, and
weird. Didn't know that either.
Did you know that before this?
No, I didn't know. I until after he died. I looked up. I thought someone posted it as a joke. And I was like, oh, is that real? Is that real? And then I looked up and I was like, oh, no, he did.
Yeah.
So very interesting career. I mean,
well-rounded guy.
Amazing. Yeah. And of course, when you're in stuff, it's interesting when you're in things that kind of define generations, people's childhoods and all that. I mean, if depending on when you grew up, you're a big Rocky fan, or you're a fan of Predator, or even some his in Happy Gilmore, you could be a fan of that. There's all these different things that you can find him in that he's associated with, and everyone will have their favorite thing that they'll remember him from. And that's the kind of career I think you want to have when you're an actor. I mean, there's always different tiers of actors. There's all these actors that, kind of the prestige, people that we respect, and they have all these accolades thrown at them. And then there are all these actors who are just in a lot of our favorite things that we've watched over the years and just from growing up. And I think he kind of falls into that category. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter and Instagram who worked with him that shouted him out in a very positive way. So that was just nice to see. I was pretty surprised though, because he, like I said, there was no indication that anything was wrong, that he was sick. So I was really surprised to hear that he passed. So
it kind of reminds me of Ray Liotta last year, or maybe 2022. I can't remember, but just kind of from out of nowhere. Sad news, but honestly, going in your sleep, can't really ask for a better way to go than that. So it seems glad he had that end. It's not that I ever wanted that for him, but
What did you really
beats a
know him
lot of
from?
ways.
Like, as
Knew
far
him from
as
Predator was a big one. Like that would be like the movie, the role of his I've seen the most and that I would most associate with him. Happy Gilmore, of course. I regretfully say I have not seen the Rocky movies, but I've seen his speeches from it. I've seen clips of him amongst his appearances in that series. I'm seeing right now that he has a credit in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I've seen and I didn't recognize him. At least I don't remember seeing him in that movie. And then also he's in what else did I just see? Little Nicky, which is a comedy from 2000 that I forgot.
More Adam Sandler.
I think he's actually playing the same character that he played in Happy Gilmore. That's what he's credited as, so that's pretty funny. And then The Mandalorian I had seen him in as well, but Predator for sure, like definitely a juicy role for him. He's great in that, and just an absolute specimen of a human being. He was massive, just in great shape.
I love what The Ringer wrote about him in their opening headline. They said Carl Weathers was forever a champion and forever your friend. The linebacker turned actor who died this week at 76 was famous for playing Apollo Creed in Rocky, Chubbs Peterson in Happy Gilmore, and Grief Karga on The Mandalorian, but he was the embodiment of charisma and charm in victory or defeat. So I think that is a very nice thing to say. So yeah, I mean, not the best news to open up with. It definitely surprised me on Friday because it came, we're recording this on Monday, so this was last week.
Right.
Definitely unexpected. I think JC Merck was the first one to send it to me.
Yeah, he had a really nice post about him too.
Yeah, and a lot of people we follow in our little cinephile community on like Instagram and stuff had, it's that's why film and stuff is so interesting and so universal because everyone has a different association with certain films and certain people in them,
right?
And what they mean to them, and like you kind of got a taste when people like this pass away. You get a taste of that, of like what this particular person meant and what the stuff that they were in, what that meant to them, and it's all different for everyone. And it's nice to see people come together on that. Like if there is a positive to come out of it, is that they've left behind all this work for you to enjoy and discover and rediscover. And there's the small little positive caveat there that at least he left a lot of art behind to admire. So
he did, and that's like one of my favorite aspects of art, sort of like I consider it like a side effect, is that you really are in your work, especially with movies, you are immortalized with your performances, and people that will completely be born a generation in between your passing will be able to see you on a screen and hear and know things about you as an artist and see you perform over many films in some people's cases. So it'll be good. He'll be a person that I will put other people on, maybe my kids one day, like this was Carl Weathers. Like when I inevitably show them Predator at probably an age much too soon than I should.
Much too soon.
That's what's great about art and film, that you are immortalized in your performances. And it's great that he did leave so many awesome performances behind for us to admire, but definitely some sad news at the tail end of last week. But that's definitely not what we wanted to cover, but all in all, not a terrible way to go. And
he also didn't want to not acknowledge it either. So
exactly, definitely.
Also in a positive way, and also Jackson, see the Rocky movies. I mean,
I know, eventually
I
will.
Eventually,
I can't wait.
No, to your credit, I saw them later than most of my.
I think you told me that before. Yeah,
I saw them pretty late.
Add to the list.
I got a lot of shit for seeing him as late as I did. I think I saw those movies late. Another one, Top Gun, I saw really late. Did not grow up watching Top Gun.
I think that's fair. I think Rocky's a more egregious offense.
Yeah.
Way too. That's like actually culturally significant. Top Gun is like 80s cheese. I guess it is culturally significant, but Rocky is. Yeah, you're right. It's. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Jenny, and like I said, there's some good Rocky movies. Like the first one is good, and then there are some that are like full on. Yeah, and then some of them are just full on entertainment, like Rocky 4, which is just like, it is what it is. But in their own right, have a little something to offer.
Exactly.
You definitely. I mean, like you said, there's so much to watch, and it's hard to get it all in. But eventually, you'll have to, just do one at a time. Just like,
that's right.
Let's get Rocky in.
I'll start this year. It's on my movie poster of 100 movies to watch. I've had it for like 3 years, and I'm like very slowly etching them off. And there's some on there I've obviously seen before, but Rocky is on that list. So I'm looking forward to penciling that off. So maybe this year I'll get it in. But in other more happier news, this is something that came out. I can't remember when this headline came out, but something that made me super psyched was that we finally got some casting news regarding Quentin Tarantino's next and supposedly final movie. The movie critic Brad Pitt has signed on to be. I think is he going to be the lead? It looks like.
Deadline thinks that he might be the movie critic, but they're not totally 100% sure yet. But they're leaning towards him being the title character in it.
Interesting.
And as we already know, they've worked together twice before, in Glorious Bastards and in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that earned Brad Pitt a Best Supporting Actor Oscar, his first Oscar. So they've worked together before. They have a good relationship already. I was really excited to hear that news, even though I don't really know much else about what this final movie. I mean, I have like the blurb that we read already about what it might be about.
Right.
But other than that,
I think.
Yeah, I think it's leading that direction. But then I also read that he said Tarantino said about his final film that the movie was set in California the year of that film's release. He's talking about a particular film that Movie Critic reviewed, and it's based on a guy who really lived but was never really famous, and he used to write movie reviews for a porno rag. So I don't know.
Okay.
And then we realized like whether or not it's still inspiration is unclear because it's Tarantino and there's a lot of secrecy behind it.
Yes.
He also compared. I read this too today that he compared the character in the Movie Critic to the Robert De Niro's character and Taxi Driver. So there's like that.
Okay.
So there's that too. So I don't know what the movie could be about, but it's cool that we have like our first significant casting from it, and it's cool that it's Brad Pitt.
Love that it's Brad Pitt.
I mean, I just been wondering, if this really is the last hurrah for him as a filmmaker, who is going to be on that lineup?
Everyone is scratching at the bits to be attached to that movie. I'm sure it'll be a star-studded A-list cast. I'm completely sure. Although Tarantino is great at casting unknowns and giving people, little nudges to their career, so I'm sure it'll have some smaller roles for people.
He's good at that. He's good at established people. He's good at like getting like newcomers. I mean, Austin Butler was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's right.
He was truly famous, and then he's also good at like reinvigorating people's careers. I mean, he did it with Pam Grier and Jackie Brown. Like she hadn't been in anything in a hot minute. He made her famous again. John Travolta, probably one of the most famous examples with Pulp Fiction. So he's really good at kind of giving nuggets to everyone.
Right.
But I'm just wondering, like, that's what's exciting about the lineup. If it is the last one, it's like, all right, who is going to be lucky enough to be in that final cast list of his? All right, he's saying it's the last one. I'm going to believe him because he's been saying it forever. I just can't see someone like him, like not making movies. I can't. And I also I know that he's written stuff, like he wrote From Dusk Till Dawn and Robert Rodriguez directed that, but I can't really see him now in his career, like just writing
for other people,
and then passing that on without, having directorial input.
I think it made sense because he also wrote True Romance that Tony Scott directed, and it made sense towards the beginning of his career when he was pumping out a bunch of material, getting on the map, that he would make stuff and pass on to other directors who maybe had more connections, more ability to direct while he was focusing on his earlier work. So I see why that might have been the case, but I don't think he has written anything that somebody else has directed since From Dusk Till Dawn. Is that right?
I think so.
He's pretty much directed everything else since.
And a lot of the stuff he's done, it's been like an original idea. Other than like Jackie Brown, because that was based on a book by Elmore Leonard. That was like one of the last things he adapted from someone else's work, but a lot of the stuff has been his, and then everything else, of course, he's directed. So I just can't see. I mean, I'm trying to say this. I don't mean ego in like a negative way. I just can't see him the way he is now.
No, I know exactly what you're saying, and it's not disrespect.
Giving up his baby to like another director. But
that, and so Cam and I were speculating. We had this conversation for whatever reason the other day, and we're like, he's relatively young. I don't even think he's 60 yet, or if he is, he's like early 60s. I don't even think he is. I should know, but
somewhere there.
I can see him like taking a hiatus for sure. He's wanted to do this for a while. There was rumors that The Hateful Eight from 2015 was going to be his last movie. And then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think he originally pitched as a novel, and then eventually it became a movie. He thought there was a better treatment. So I can picture him like creating other mediums, like for storytelling, like writing screenplays, writing novels, doing whatever. I bet you he gets the itch. Like he's got a lot of life left and a lot of gifts to give people in the form of storytelling. I don't imagine he would completely retire into the sunset like that. He's too talented. He's too good and impactful a filmmaker, and like you said,
loves it too much, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he loves it way too much, and like I can't see him. I get the what he was trying to say when he was like, hey, you know, like there's so many directors that we love, and like, you know, a lot of their earlier best work is behind them once they hit a certain age or once they start cranking out too many movies. So I get the idea of why he wants to be 10 and done, but I don't really get the burnout thing from him. Like he hasn't, like I said, he's in that rare league of directors who've never made a bad movie. Like, I mean, you might like more some of the others, but like there's definitely not a bad one in the bunch. So yeah, I mean, I'll take his word for it. This will be his last one. And what I do know too, I think this one, it doesn't have a studio yet, but I think Sony is in the lead to get it. And they released Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and they handled that release really well. So I can't imagine him maybe wanting to go anywhere else. If he wants to make his last movie with a studio that he likes and trusts, it might as well be with them.
It's been, and that was 5 years ago this year that Hollywood.
That's crazy.
It's like Kubrickian lengths of, you know, in between your movies, which I'm not a fan of. It's a long time. I remember.
I saw that at an 11:30 showing on a Thursday night.
Oh my god, that's
amazing! It's so long, but it was so good. I remember I saw it with 4 buddies. 2 of us loved it. The other 2 were, I think, because we saw it so late.
It's a divisive movie of his, but definitely tailored towards like the cinephile and film loving, you know, audience for sure. It's a love letter after all to Hollywood.
Definitely not something that we should have saw at 11:30 at night.
No, but at least you saw it in theaters.
Yeah, I love that experience. It was so much fun.
2019. I can't even believe saying that out loud. That's 5 years ago this year. That is insane.
Yeah, it is insane.
But yeah. And the Movie Critic slated to come out I know we talked about this recently. Is it going to be later in 2024, or have the strikes and stuff pushed that back to 2025?
I think it probably has pushed it back. I mean, and I'm imagining since it's still casting that we won't get it this year.
Right.
But we'll see. Well, we
shall see. A pretty quick production if it's this year. So yeah,
it looks like it is a 2025 film according to what I just picked up right now.
Okay. Well, that's soon enough. Time flies these days, so it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah. I have one story that that's not, so for everyone listening, we have this like little sidebar story to keep us on track, which is it's really helpful. But the one thing I forgot to put in there that I wanted to mention ahead of this other story is the story. It's not really a story about Christopher Nolan, but it's something that I thought was interesting that he said, because he, you know, when he first started out, he was making stuff like Memento and Insomnia, and they were like very smaller scale movies, and then of course he hasn't made a smaller scale movie since I guess you call the Prestige a smaller scale movie compared to the other stuff that he's done. Like he did Batman Begins, right, and then the Prestige, and then they all were big after, like really big movies after that. But he did an interview with Time Magazine. I actually wanted to ask Jackson what he thought about it, because
I have no idea what you're about to say. I have not heard this.
I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan, but you're probably a bigger one than I am. But he said that he appreciates all film projects, big or small, but he admits that he will likely continue to work on large-scale productions. During an interview with Time Magazine, the filmmaker said some of his recent favorite films were smaller-scale dramas, including Past Lives, which he said was subtle in a beautiful sort of way, and After Sun, which he called just a beautiful film.
I did see that part.
And though Nolan admires the beauty of those projects, he noted that he feels a responsibility to continue making blockbuster movies with large casts, elaborate sets, and big budgets. And he says, I'm drawn to working at a large scale because I know how fragile the opportunity to marshal those resources is. I know that there are so many filmmakers out there in the world who would give their eye teeth to have the resources I put together. And I feel I have the responsibility to use them in the most productive and interesting way. So I was going to throw it to you. Like, what do you think about him saying that he will probably never make a small scale movie again, and that he will only be making large scale movies?
I'm not immediately. There's nothing about that upsets me. I love his smaller indie work from the 2000s and the late 90s, but like to me it also feels like a stepping stone for directors of his caliber, like everyone that eventually becomes, not everyone, but many filmmakers who end up having a career anything near the ballpark of Christopher Nolan's start with an indie project that gets them on the map, and then maybe they get a little bit more financing for their next movie, and then all of a sudden a few years later they're big blockbuster filmmakers, if you're following the traditional sort of arc of a big Hollywood titan like him. So it makes sense. But now like my mind also goes to like Martin Scorsese, who after like 25 years of filmmaking puts out like Cape Fear right after Goodfellas for a smaller micro budget, filmed it really quick. And that's like one of his better movies. And it's fantastic. And it's very much a smaller project. So you can make, it depends, I think, on how busy he really wants to be. But his movies, like you said, and like you quoted from him saying, they're grandiose. They take a lot of resources. They're massive scale. They take a lot of time to make. So it's hard to pump out smaller movies in between. I don't fault him for that. I agree that he, I like that he takes that approach, that he feels like responsible. And he does these movies to the scale better than anybody working this day. I'd say the only person, kind of in his dust anywhere close to him would be like Denis Villeneuve.
So that was a good example, because I was thinking about that, because he seems to be on like the larger scale. I mean, of course, the last few things he's done were
especially
good,
lately,
right?
Yeah.
But then I go back to like something like Prisoners, which I loved, which is a smaller scale movie, and I was like,
and Enemy that same year he did,
and
too.
Enemy, and I'm like, I wish he could make something like that again, or like, would he be capable of? I mean, of course, he'd be capable of it, but would he want to go back and make something like that again?
That's
and I guess
the other side of this coin, right?
Yeah. So I guess like that's why I respect what Christopher Nolan is saying, because what I took from that quote too is like, I'm in a position to make these kind of movies. I can also make them with respect, and I have this platform, and I have like this ability to do these movies, and you're not going to get anything that's mindless, and it's going to be more than just, yes, they're big budgets and they're grand, but they have more to say than like your typical blockbuster. So I get his position, but then I think about like Memento, and I know, I read your Letterboxd review. Like I know, like you didn't love Insomnia,
right?
Yeah, but I actually think Insomnia is like pretty underrated, and like I
agree it's underrated, and
I miss that from him. But it's hard. I guess it would be hard to go back to something like that after all the stuff he's done.
I agree exactly what you're saying, but like considering how bigger in scale and even like better his movies seem to get chronologically, I mean, that might depend on, what you think of each individual movie he makes, but like he hasn't done anything to me that makes me think, okay, Chris, it's time to slow down, go back to basics. Like each movie seems like it gets bigger, more complex, and they all still work. Like, not to say they're all flawless, like Tenet obviously comes to mind, but even after that movie with its imperfections, he pumps out Oppenheimer after that, and like is magnum opus right now. Like I don't see that he needs to really slow down. I like what he's doing, and even then, Oppenheimer, budget aside and cast aside, it still like is a smaller story, like akin to something that he would have done in his earlier times. It's not this big, and it is epic, but it's not this huge.
And Oppenheimer only had like $100 million budget. I mean, compared to like
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so but Tenet I think had upwards, I think almost 2, and then the Dark Knight trilogy, each one got progressively more expensive.
Right.
So like, but they also, even if the budgets are small, like Oppenheimer feels like a bigger movie than probably it is.
Exactly.
In scale.
Yes.
But I thought it was just like interesting that he said
it's
that.
A good point.
Like,
I'm glad you threw it in there, because I hadn't actually heard anything about the interview. I did hear like some different accounts I follow did mention that he was recently quoted as saying Past Lives and After Sun were among his favorite recent movies. I was like, that's great, because those are two of my standouts from. And I know that you love both. You saw After Sun, right?
Yeah.
So that's great.
Then I'm like thinking, like, can you see him making like an After Sun or Past Lives?
I don't know if I can anymore.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Like a really like small like character piece.
Not that I don't think he'd be capable, but it's just like you said, it's a matter of like just the type of movies that he is doing these days. I wouldn't be opposed to it at all, but like, there's nothing about what he's doing right now that makes me feel like he needs to step back and stop making these large scale movies, because so many directors try and fail to do what he does, and it's like, why mess with a winning winning formula?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when Oppenheimer came out, I had to write it. Well, I didn't have to. I chose to because I really like Insomnia. So I chose like, hey, this is like his most underrated movie in his filmography, I thought. But by the end of that feature, I even said like, I don't, after what he's done since, I don't think not that he can't, but I don't think he would want to go back to something that, I mean, that's probably the smallest budget he's worked with. That was back in 2000, and like, since like, that's like, that was 2002, I think, when that movie came out. So since 2002, I think that's the smallest amount of money he's worked with
that's right.
on a movie. And, and Insomnia, that's all character work. That's all, there are some elements in it that are very Christopher Nolan as far as like shots and all that, but it's not like, it's definitely not, it's weird to like think that, well, that guy made that and he made Interstellar. So like they're completely totally different beasts. So
dude, Interstellar is 10 this year. Just a heads up. You're
definitely.
I haven't seen it. I've intentionally like not watched that movie for the last couple of years because I love it and I want to get as close as I can to that feeling of not seeing it in a while. But mark that down right now. I can't remember when it came out, like September maybe, but
you're like
summer.
Side note.
Side note. But no, cool little outtake though for him. But I would, nothing he could make. I would not be absolutely ecstatic about. So if he were to do, he could do a 30-minute short, and I think it would be amazing, and I would encourage it. But I just don't foresee that happening. But maybe when he gets older and he doesn't want to do these massive projects, yeah. And I think he'll always write though.
And by the way, even Tenet, like I know it's not loved by everyone. Like I don't love it. I don't hate it either though. So like, even
there are things about it I love, but overall I really enjoy it rather than love it thoroughly, but I love lots about it.
His talents haven't been like squandered making big budget movies.
Exactly.
And, this is not Michael Bay. So that's what my word there. He can make big budget, thought provoking movies and not just mindless explosions.
Right.
So, but I do respect him being upfront about. I have a responsibility. I'm in a position that a lot of other directors aren't in to make these kind of movies where they're like, our studio is giving him this money and they're giving him these resources to make these movies. And he's right. Every filmmaker doesn't have that. So why would he be in a position to be like, no, I don't want to utilize it? So I respect it. But I was just curious because like I thought about Denis as well because like that Prisoners came up to me right away. I was like, I wonder if he would go back and do something like that after living in like, because even like Arrival, even though it's like a sci-fi movie, it's still a smaller, feels more character driven, than like. But he hasn't really done something like Prisoners in a long time. So I immediately thought of a director like him, and then like, but once you get to that point, I think it is hard to scale it back. I mean, like Spielberg's done that because he's done bigger stuff and he's scaled back and done like even recently did The Fablemans, and that's like a smaller character-driven movie. So
I suppose
there are directors who are capable of doing it. I mean, hell, the same time he was doing Jurassic Park, he did Schindler's List, so it's possible.
For sure. On another little sidebar here, if you consider Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve both really between the two of them ruled the 2010s in filmmaking. Like between the two of them, they had like I think 10 movies come out, maybe even more. But absolutely insane. We got like pretty much a movie from those guys in every year of the 2010s, almost, save for maybe a couple of years. Some of those years we got one from both or even two from the same. And it's just incredible if you stop and look at the movies they pumped out in that 10-year period. Like they were literally on top of the game. It's insane.
We were spoiled.
We were really spoiled that decade. Those were like you could survive, I think, off movies just from the 2010s from those two guys. Like it's absolutely nuts what they put out. They both had a movie in 2010. Nolan had a movie in 2012. Denis Villeneuve had two in 2013. Nolan had one in 2014. And then Denis Villeneuve had one from 15, 16, and 17. It's like, and then they were both on a crazy roll, but look at their filmography sometimes. Like it is astounding. I hope the 2020s, it seems like we're on pace for the same thing. We got Dune in 2021 from Denis Villeneuve. We got Oppenheimer last year, and we got Denis' new movie this year. And then that's the thing. It's pretty soon, I'm sure we're going to hear about Nolan's next movie in development.
I know.
I cannot wait
everyone's
for that.
wondering. Everyone's wondering like what he's gonna do next, and I maybe take a well-deserved breather and think about what he's gonna do
not
next.
Too long,
don't make us wait too long. While we're talking about Dune Part 2, just for a second, I heard a lot of people have been seeing it really early. A lot of exhibitors have seen it already.
Oh, the movie itself. Okay.
The movie itself.
Nice.
Movie theaters are very excited because when we talk about box office, you'll understand why they're excited, because it's been a pretty down, with the exception of Mean Girls and The Beekeeper, I guess. It's been a rough start.
Rough start to the year, for sure.
2024 box office. But a lot of people are saying Dune Part 2 is like the Empire Strikes Back that's how they're feeling about it. And they said if he said he has to think about if he wants to go into I guess Dune Messiah would be the next step if he wanted to.
I was about to bring something up about that. Did you?
Okay, cool.
You might not have seen what I saw. I guess I don't have any sources to back this up. This is an article I read on the weekend. But if it's to be believed, Denis has 3 movies in various stages of production right now. 3. Yeah. And one of them is supposedly Dune Messiah. He is actively looking to adapt the book. So that would be fantastic.
I know he wants to do that. I did hear that. I also heard there's a Cleopatra movie that he is
Cleopatra was the other one.
With Zendaya being attached to it as Cleopatra.
Oh my god, that would be great.
Which I mean, once you start finding people you love to work with, I love when directors reuse people, and I love when actors work with the same directors all the time.
Yep, it's fantastic.
So it's interesting because we're coming on probably Christopher Nolan. Don't want to jinx it, but winning his first Oscar.
You better not fucking jinx it.
Depending on the slate, it's early in the year, and I know Dune is being released in March, but if it's as good as everyone says it is, that could also be a big award season player later in the year.
It worries me though that it's so early in the year. In terms of
they might forget about it.
Yeah, that it might get overshadowed later in the year. But when it comes out, everyone's going to be saying, "Oh my God, give it everything!" It's going to be deserving of all these things. But there's a reason that there's an awards race towards the end of the year, because it's top of mind. It's recency bias. It's Psych 101. Like, the more recently you've seen or heard something or were introduced to any phenomenon, the more it's going to stick in your brain. And that is definitely reflected when it comes to Oscar nominations or just awards in general. So it alarms me, but
it's very rare that an early, we might discuss this film too this year for its anniversary because it turns 20, but Crash came out in May of 2004, I believe, when it came out. And that's really early. And usually that is, you'll be forgotten by then.
And not in that movie space, though.
and Brokeback Mountain was the front runner. Everyone was like, hey, that's gonna sweep, that's gonna win all the awards, it's gonna win Best Picture, and it really seemed like it was. And then Crash ended up winning Best Picture at the Oscars over it. A lot of people consider it one of the worst Best Picture winners ever.
I know that it has that reputation. I haven't seen it yet. But I don't this year.
Yeah, I don't consider it that, but it's one of the few examples that I can think of where that release date didn't really matter and it stayed in people's consciousness that whole award season. But yeah, it is. You're right. When it's too early in the year, you saw it happen. With Air. Air got really good reviews, and a lot of people thought it would be a player, but it came out so early in the year that by the time award season really kicked in, so many other things that come out that kind of overshadowed it. So, I guess what I have, the faith I have in Dune Part 2 is that it originally supposed to come out at a time where it would have been perfectly positioned for awards last year, and that was a good date last year. I think it was October, November is when it was supposed to come out in 2023. Yeah. So I think the March date is more of a formality for Warner Brothers. Like, hey, we don't want to push back too far because we still want to get it out there because we can't delay it too long. So I think that was more the issue for them rather than its awards potential. I think it still could have it, and who knows? They could re-release it for a little bit in theaters before award season. There's a lot of stuff they could do.
I'm curious as to the not rules necessarily, but the tendencies for movies to be re-released, and if there is any, because they would have to fight for movie screen
there's like
space.
They fight for space. It's a studio decision, but they kind of work it out with the exhibitors and stuff. Especially
I know nothing about that.
They try to do it during like a lighter weekend, so like they're not taking away screens from other movies and stuff. But I mean, there's some potential that they could do. But yeah, I honestly do think that Dune Part 2 will be an award season player, and then we'll be talking about Denis, where we're talking about Christopher Nolan. Hopefully, not. This is so early to predict that, but like I kind of would love to see him in that position too. The way that the same position that Christopher Nolan is in right now.
Even though lots of people love and talk about Villeneuve's movies, he is still, I think, somehow considered underrated. Like when you look at how amazing his filmography is and some of his movies' box office performances, like Blade Runner 2049, for example. I'm not sure how, like none of the other ones stick out to me as what I remember them doing at the box office, but he doesn't get the credit, maybe not underrated, but doesn't get the credit that he really deserves. So I think Dune Part 2 is a great chance for him to finally get some recognition for his work. Not that he's like completely unrecognized. Like it's not like he's invisible, but I just don't feel like he is really regarded as the living great that he has carved himself out to be. I truly think he's one of the best filmmakers working right now. And I would love for, for some reason, maybe just because they're sci-fi big budget movies, but I have a feeling that Dune Part 2 will be like the Fury Road of 2024, like in terms of like, that movie was up
that's actually another good example. That came out pretty early. That came out during the summer of the year that it came out. That's another good example of one that stuck around and got best.
True.
And then won all the most Oscars, that even though they were all technical, but like it won the most Oscars of the movies that were nominated. So
what did it win? Like 6?
Yeah, 6. Yeah, all technical, but still, all that. The sound bite, that's all that matters. They won the most Oscars.
Exactly. Oh, I remember that night.
When I think about he made Arrival, which is a cerebral sci-fi movie. That movie made $203.3 million worldwide.
Okay.
And that's a cerebral sci-fi movie. And you can't really, a lot of people don't go see those anymore. And he was able to turn that into a box office hit.
Phenomenal.
It's a great movie. That movie wrecks me too by the end of it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite endings. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of get that vibe too, that I think from a lot of mainstream people, he would be, I think, underrated. Not amongst maybe the cinephile, not amongst the cinephile community, but like
outside of it, I think.
Yeah, casual moviegoers can name Spielberg, Scorsese, Nolan, Fincher, Tarantino, but then I think someone like him, he's still not really has like the mainstream success where his name is like fully recognized with certain projects. But I think that Dune Part 1 was great, and I think the way it was released kind of hampered its overall reception. I mean, it still did well, but like being released day and date in theaters and on streaming, and then having to fight COVID. Yeah, but this one doesn't. This one gets to go full out, and why I think the potential is really big. There's been a lot of these like IMAX showings of Dune that they've been doing them ahead of Dune Part 2 opening, and they've been showing, I guess, like 15 minutes of Dune Part 2 ahead of it. A lot of those showings have been sold out. So that's why I have like some faith that Dune Part 2 is going to be bigger than maybe we all kind of think it might be. Like,
I hope so.
There's potential for it to maybe be $1 billion earner globally. If like Dune didn't have the opportunity to have just open access to like full theaters and no limitations, and not being also released on streaming. So like it will be interesting to see what Dune Part 2 does without all these things in the way of it. So hopefully this will be like his not that he needs it for us, but for everyone else that is unfamiliar, this will get them familiar, hopefully.
Great. That was a long tangent on something we didn't even have planned.
I know, sorry.
I love it though. But there is one other thing I wanted to kind of piggyback into, and that was actually, this is sort of off a rewatch that I got in earlier this week of 28 Days Later. But for fans of that movie and its sequel, we'll be excited to know that. So I guess this has been speculated about for years and demanded after the success of those earlier two movies, but looks like Danny Boyle is coming back to perhaps direct 28 years later. I think Alex Garland is writing it as he did the first one. And Cillian Murphy, I don't think it's official yet, but he's looking at joining the lead role.
He's circling it. Yeah,
circling it. Okay, right, like a vulture.
So it was put out there that they were going to work on it. And that the one thing that stood out to us when we first talked about it, I love the idea of them doing it together, but it's also supposed to be the start of a planned trilogy, which kind of makes me take a step back a little bit.
I can't remember if you told me that or not. I feel like this,
but yeah,
okay.
But now it has a home now. It's gonna Sony Pictures got it.
Right.
They won a bidding war for it. I guess it was an intense bidding war for it amongst a few other studios, but they got it. Each movie it will be $75 million budget, and they Cillian Murphy. Now here's like Cillian Murphy, he's on board as an executive producer already, so there is incentive for him to star. And for all that don't know, he did star in 28 Days Later.
Right.
His star has risen considerably since then, and he's nominated for his first Oscar. He might win one. We don't know yet. That one is more up in the air than we probably thought in the beginning. Some people are saying here he's waiting to see what happens with the Oscars before he signs on.
I was just about to suggest that his budget or his salary may increase here soon.
Yeah, and I imagine that he's friendly with both Alex Garland and Danny Boyle, so they might not be like that kind of issue, but. And I also don't see it being that kind of actor that's like, well, let me see how this goes. And
no, I don't either. But
but it also might be like a timing thing and like seeing what he wants to do. And I saw your Letterboxd review because I guess you just recently rewatched it. I haven't watched that movie in a hot minute, man. It's been a long time since I watched it.
Yeah,
I remember it when I first saw it. It kind of terrified me when I first saw it in theaters back in the day. But it's been a few years since I watched it. Your review was actually really good, where you kind of were like, kind of naming all the things that it kind of inspired after that.
Oh, there's plenty.
Specifically like The Walking Dead
borrowed from that big time in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think it really changed. Even though they're not technically zombies, it really did change how zombie movies were made. And this was no more of the Night of the Living Dead, slow moving. We want to eat your brains,
right? Exactly.
Zombies. They are like snarling and running. Like when I read that they actually hired a bunch of former athletes to be the zombies in 28 Days Later.
Oh,
because they actually wanted people who like looked like they could physically like run without not like actors. They wanted them to like look legit.
Right.
And that was the first time I ever was remotely afraid watching a zombie movie. I was like,
it was the first movie that depicted running zombies, which is like, it's crazy that it took like nearly like 45 years for that small but insanely scary feature to be attributed to that. And I
think the movie that kind of took from that first, which is another movie that's celebrating a milestone this year, the Dawn of the Dead remake that Zack Snyder did.
Oh my God, it's 20 this year. That's right.
Yeah, really utilized that too in a really big way, and that was only a couple years later.
Yeah,
so it really became like the new motif on how to do the zombie a zombie apocalypse, which I think works because like for me, like you coming after me at a snail's pace is not terrifying at all. But I actually liked 28 Weeks Later too. I don't remember it being as good. I need to watch it again too because I haven't watched it in a long time.
Even more so, like needed to rewatch that. But I completely agree. Like in my mind, as I remembered, it's not nearly as good as the first. It's one of those movies that's like super obvious that it's like an American version of the.
Oh yeah, it's very much like they got more money.
It's just a differently constructed movie, right? It has those American sensibilities.
Yeah. But like Jeremy Renner before he really became Jeremy Renner is in that movie as well.
Rose Byrne, that was an
Rose Byrne is in it. Yeah, it's for what I remember, it was a solid sequel. We've talked about the whole plan trilogy thing before on other movies. That's my only concern about it.
Me too. I completely agree.
I do like that Alex Garland is writing all three, and Danny Boyle is going to direct the first one. So at least it's one screenwriter attacking all three, and I mean, hopefully he had an idea already to stretch this out for 3 movies. I just wish like they would just take one movie at a time and just announce that.
Yeah.
But I am happy that it has a home, and if Cillian Murphy does join, I think that'd be really cool to see him in that. It's probably good news that he's an executive producer because he's involved in some way.
Yeah.
And
They better be rated R or 18A is all I can ask for. Don't PG-13 shit.
Don't hold back on us.
No.
Yeah. We don't ask for much. It's a little blood and viscera.
Exactly. All right, what do you got up next? Oh,
we got more movie stories. Oh, we'll do this one too. Tim Burton, who I didn't put this in the list, but Tim Burton had a really good week this week. We got the official poster for Beetlejuice and official for Beetlejuice 2, and then we got an official title. It's Beetlejuice, which is a play on the whole saying his name multiple times. Yeah. Some people thought it was clever, other people thought it was silly, and they were like, just name it Beetlejuice 2.
I'm sure it'll get that moniker anyway, so does it really matter?
Yeah. I had one of those reactions to it where I was like, I get it. I think it's kind of clever. I have feelings with it, but on the same day as that news, it was also announced that he's attached to direct reimagining Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, which was a 1958 Warner Brothers movie classic. And Gillian Flynn is writing it, and she of course wrote Gone Girl and all. Yeah. So
and probably other great books too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Girl on the Train. She wrote that book too. It didn't really turn into a great movie, but
no, it did not. I forgot at least that she had done that book.
And then she did that. She's attached to that HBO limited series with Amy Adams, Sharp Objects. So she's a really great writer, and I think it's good for her to be attached to it. In case you guys don't know what the original movie is about, it's a cult classic that was made reportedly for $88,000 back in 1958, and it follows a wealthy heiress whose close encounter with an alien triggers her to grow into a giantess, complicating her marriage, which is already in turmoil, no thanks to her cheating husband. So that's the plot of the original movie. It seemed like right up Tim Burton's alley. He did Mars Attacks, which kind of had like a similar 50s vibe. He did that back in 1996,
right?
And that was also like an adaptation of like the top trading cards from back in the day. So like he knows that style and can do it.
Okay.
It doesn't scream like something that should be remade, but it does seem like something that's in his wheelhouse already.
Yeah.
When I heard the story, I was like thinking about it because I think we've talked about Tim Burton, but I don't know like where like I know you said you've seen Ed Wood, right? Like
Ed Wood's fantastic. I saw that last year for the first time.
I don't think we've really talked about him as a filmmaker as a whole, like where you kind of stand on.
I haven't seen some of his more divisive movies or less loved, but I have seen a great amount. I haven't seen his Batman movies, which is a sin, and I hate to admit it. I have seen
change that this year, though. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Big Tim Burton fan. Some other standouts. Man, the more I think about it, there are more of his that I haven't seen, but he's one of those guys that has so many movies. I'm a big fan of. Why am I blanking on it now? His Johnny Depp musical, Sweeney Todd is a.
Sweeney Todd. That's a great movie.
Really like. What else jumps out at me for Tim Burton? Beetlejuice, of course, the first one I really admire. I forgot to say this when you were talking about the poster for Beetlejuice 2 or Beetlejuice, but I like the poster. I'm really not a fan of this. It's a long-standing trend, and it's like one of those movie poster trends that's like harkening back to like the style of the 80s where you have the portrait of all the main characters like looking in different directions and like kind of staring absentmindedly, like instead of actually having something like relative to the movie in it. Like I like that the poster is just like the set of hands, like I can't remember exactly. I don't have
the ticket. It's like
the ticket, and it has
the ticket thing. Yeah, it has.
I thought that was super slick.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So I just wanted to get that out there while I was thinking about it. But I might as well just pull up his filmography while I'm talking about him because, of course, I'm blanking.
Growing up, he was one of my favorite filmmakers. Growing up, like I used to love.
He's gone around. He's kind of switched gears a lot over the years, for sure.
Like I still like Edward Scissorhands. I still like. I love that movie. And Big Fish is really good. Sweeney Todd, like you said, is also really good. He has a very distinct style, at least. I mean, if it's like if it's dark gray, kind of bluish tint, gothic looking, that's a Tim Burton movie for sure.
Gothic, great way. I compare him to like Guillermo del Toro in terms of the stories they kind of tell and the style.
Like I like Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow is pretty fun.
Sleepy Hollow was pretty. Yeah, a lot of decapitations in that movie. I watched that a couple years ago for the first time.
His Planet of the Apes, not so much. That was a misfire. But,
that's notorious.
But overall, really good, solid filmmaker who seemed like he's kind of like having a second coming because he took. I think he did Dumbo, that live action Dumbo for Disney, and then that didn't really go that well. And then he kind of took a break, and then he kind of came back with Wednesday on Netflix, and of course he's doing Beetlejuice 2, which I think seems to be like a guaranteed hit because people seem to really want it. This I don't know. It's an interesting choice. Attack of the. I mean, I think I'm more interested in it because Gillian Flynn's writing it more so than him directing it. I actually like that there's a good screenwriter behind it that could maybe kind of turn that story into something really fun. And
I agree.
Because even reading that plot description to you I was like, that sounds silly, but you can probably make that really interesting though with the right tone. And so I
say this cautiously because you could pitch this, what I'm about to say, in another way, and I would say that I hate this trope about remaking older movies for modern sensibilities, but I feel like just in general, and by no means am I a gender expert, but it's no secret to say that so many things have changed in terms of like the roles of female and women since the original Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, that I think that there are some interesting angles you could approach with this movie in terms of like, I don't know where they'll go with it. I'm speculating, but I think there's a lot to say about, just the change in gender norms since then that could be attached to this movie. I think there's a lot of fun ways you could approach this, but I say that because I don't necessarily want it to be a critique necessarily, or like, I think there's a lot of bad ways this could be handled. And I feel confident with Tim Burton, Gillian Flynn kind of being behind this, that I think that they could explore some interesting things. And I'll leave it at that. I just want to be vague because who knows really. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it'd be low-hanging fruit for other directors or screenplay writers to make this like a certain type of movie. But I'm excited, I guess. When
I think she'll attack it in a very intelligent way.
That's I have faith.
Screenwriting wise, and then it's also that seems like what directorial wise, it just seems like something very much in his style that would be really good. So it might be a good marriage of the two.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Could be a good partnership.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that kind of news, but I was like, oh, right. And the same day as the Beetlejuice stuff came out, so good day for Tim Burton.
Good boy, Tim.
All right, what we got next?
I guess it could be a good time to segue into the news about everyone's favorite rising Australian star, Jacob Elordi. This was just like today, wasn't it, that this came out, or maybe yesterday?
Late last night or early this morning.
So, and I believe this incident that we're about to discuss took place in Australia, as far as I understand. Is that right, or is that not the case?
I believe so. Yeah.
So I actually heard this from you. You sent me it, but I also coincidentally, like around the time that you would share this to me, I was just like Googling like news, and I read an article from this about him. So you may have more details, but the story that I understand is that he was out for just, minding his own business somewhere in Australia. I think it happened was it Sydney? Anyway, we'll get
I believe so. Yeah. I love the way you said it. Like, minding his own business. Like,
well, because I feel bad for him. Like, I feel like this
sitting on a stoop somewhere.
Right. Just, I think he was at a cafe or something. And you know what? Before I butcher this story, I know that you have it in front of you. Why don't you just read what happened?
No, I actually liked how you set it up. Like, he was just like,
okay, well, more or less,
lollygagging
was minding his own business, lollygagging, gets approached by a producer from some podcast or show, and it's discovered that he's recording this interaction, and Jacob Elordi asks him to stop recording it. To which the guy complies and stops recording, but then I guess where things take a turn is Jacob Elordi asks him to delete the deleted video, to completely erase this interaction, and then this producer person denies this, and things get physical, and now he's alleging that Jacob Elordi assaulted him, and now there's a police investigation. End sentence. Full stop.
And here you go. Like, okay, you were kind of close. It was
yes,
not at a coffee shop, but at a beer garden.
I made that up. Okay, other side of the spectrum.
But still, he was leaving a beer garden, and I guess what he asked on camera. So this is the Kyle and Jackie O show. It's a Kiss FM show. The producer's name is Joshua Fox, and he asked Jacob Elordi to send bathwater to his colleague Jackie O, which is like a reference to the whole,
of course,
bathtub thing in Saltburn. Which I'm gonna preface this. Jimmy Fallon made a joke about this on his show with Jacob Elordi. They actually had like the candle. They actually have a candle out that is supposed to be whatever. You guys see the movie now, and then he smelled it on the show and made a joke out of it. So like maybe they're like, hey, like he's in on the joke.
Well, I think it's
These,
more of being a good sport. It's not like he could necessarily duck that on Jimmy Fallon's show. He just went
yeah,
along with it. Was
and I
my
think too,
impression.
I also think so. Like when you're on a late night talk show or any talk show, like you pre-approve what they're going to ask you. So
Oh,
if
okay.
it's
See, I
like
didn't know
already,
that.
so usually, because they don't want to be caught off guard. But like if he's pre-approved, like, hey, can we joke about this? Then it's probably okay. But it seems like this was not planned. So
Right.
he said that he that Lordy quickly realized Fox was filming their exchange and asked him to stop, and he obliged. Though according to Fox, the situation took a turn. He agreed to not use the footage. He kind of gets up in my face, Fox recalled of Lordy. I could have kissed him. He was that close. So I backed up against this wall. He continued. He's right in my face, and his two boys are now on either side of me. I'm feeling quite intimidated. He said Fox went on to note that he apologized to the Euphoria star, who he says became aggressive during the encounter. He says, the way they're surrounding me, I'm thinking something's going to happen here. Someone's going to jump me or something. So I say, no, I'm not deleting that. And then he says, I refuse to because I feel uncomfortable right now. And this is the only evidence I have. And then Jacob kind of just flips and he kind of pushes me against the wall and his hands are on my throat.
Right.
Following the incident, Fox says, which ended when one of Elordi's friends pulled him away. Police confirmed to NBC News that they are looking into the encounter. They said officers attached to Eastern Beaches Police Area Command are investigating after a man was allegedly assaulted outside a hotel in city's eastern suburbs. So, yeah, it just sounds like he got caught up. It could have been he got caught off guard. It also was a beer garden, so maybe he's drunk.
Yeah, maybe. And that's not like an excuse, generally you shouldn't put hands on people, but like I sympathize with Jacob Elordi and many other stars that are, approached by people when they're just trying to live their life. And I get that that's a side effect of fame and he's a rising star right now, but like, man, it's gotta be tough. Like, not that like celebrities need to defend them, obviously, but like it's when people are coming up and you're just trying to be out for a drink with your guys and all of a sudden you're being recorded and you don't realize you are. And you're drunk, like this has got to be annoying. So I understand where he's coming from. Not that I condone. It doesn't sound like much of an assault. I guess the hands on the, we don't know from that description, and that might be the case. And I could be completely wrong, but I just, I read that when you sent it to me, I was like, it's gotta suck for the guy for it happens to every celebrity that when they go out in public, like God forbid you go try to have a nice afternoon. But what was your take on all that? Do you feel differently?
Well,
you think he's an asshole?
I don't. No, I don't. I used to. Well, I remember that time. I was the one that was like, oh, he's kind of a little full of himself because he, the stuff he said about his old movies and all that.
And that could be the case too.
But then they also said like, hey, he should also be proud of his output, and I think he is in a position where he's getting bigger things and more significant stuff than like the kissing booth. So I get it, but I also know that some of these radio personalities do things to excite people, and I could see this person trying to be funny and like recording him and like asking him this in front of his friends, and maybe he didn't want that to be a thing in front of his friends, and he just wants to be out and have a good time with his buddies. Do I think it should escalate it further than that? No. Like, I mean,
no, exactly.
If it's described the way he's saying, where it's just like he's in my face and his friends recording me too,
right?
That's not necessary.
Good to know. We only have one side of that,
right? And a lot of these radio people, they're like so they can go back and tell stories like this on their show.
It's good for viewership for sure.
Yeah, so like I would love to hear his side of it and see what the case is.
It sounds like he fell for a trap, perhaps.
Yeah, it does. It really does seem like he really got suckered. And again, we don't know. Like the radio person could have seen that he was drunk. We don't even know what was going on. Like and just like took advantage of a moment. But I agree with you. I mean, I think a lot of people look at celebrities like they're less than human sometimes, and like they can just approach them and like
exactly.
Like they're fucking animals at the fucking zoo, and like you're like let me.
I just made the same connection when you said that. Absolutely, it's a great analogy.
Let me record you without your permission. Let me do this without your permission, and
and they're human too. Of course, they're going to react.
Yeah, and some celebrities are very cool about interacting with people, and sometimes they're like, "Hey, let me just have a moment to myself with my friends," and because they don't get to, and I think he's in a position where it might be hard for him to go out and not be noticed, and
I'm thinking too, this whole fame, like the level of fame that he is now enjoying is relatively new for him. Like obviously he's been a star of Euphoria for a few years now, but it's not like he's been an A-list celebrity for even that part is debatable, but he's not been on top of the world like he is right now for very long. So he may be very well adjusting to this newfound fame and everything that comes with it. And
Yeah.
I'm sure lots of other celebrities, when they were starting out, probably took their time adjusting. I feel like that's what this could be a case of. Who knows? I guess time will tell us more about what exactly how he handles interactions like this. If this is a learning curve, if this was provoked, like you speculate, who knows? But yeah, initially,
bear in mind, he's only 26. I mean, that's not an excuse either. But there's lots to learn. I think
that's
him.
right. Yeah,
and hopefully, he'll learn from it and not just react. It felt very much like channeling his character from Euphoria. I was like, dude, check your anger if you really get that. If you really get that mad
on the show, eh?
Oh yeah. There's a lot going on.
I've seen a couple of his outbursts on like YouTube from the show. They all look pretty good, but I never know the context, so I don't know if it's warranted or if that's his character.
He's got some issues on that show.
Okay. Seems like they all do.
Yeah, everyone on that show does.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how it is, and if he says something that refutes that, we'll bring it up again on another episode just to be fair. But it was a very interesting story, how it was like kind of laid out, and even the way this radio guy told the story, it feels very much like he's trying to, like, I don't know, it's just for some like listenership more than anything. That was the vibe I got while reading it. Like, reading it now, I was like, he almost like I can't hear this guy or whatever, but it seems like he would almost be, the way he's stating it almost feels like a joke. Like he's like, it almost feels like a bit rather than like I was so intimidated, or like, like I said, he should have set him up for all we know.
Yeah, it very well could be the case. In some smaller news, I don't have as much to lend to this as there might be, but I didn't even know this movie was in production, although I probably could have guessed it. But Jim Carrey's coming back for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I don't know. Do you know more about the production of that movie, where it's at? Is he like the first big person to attach to it?
No, well, for all I know, all the human people are coming back. So James Marsden, Tika Sumpter, they're in the first two.
That's funny. None of the hedgehogs yet, eh?
Oh no, they'll be there. Sonic and Tails are in it, and that's people who know that saw the second one. Knuckles was an antagonist, but now he's on the team now, so he will be in the third one. And then they're introducing the original voice of Tails from like the
way.
Yeah, so they got her to do it. So I thought that was really cool.
Nice.
And Knuckles was of course voiced by Idris Elba, which I thought was
awesome casting.
A very inspired casting. And I'm putting up Sonic right now. I'm like blanking on the comedian's name, but he actually does a really good just voice performance for Sonic that I thought was really good. Ben Schwartz, he actually does a really good
I didn't know it was him. Oh wow, no, this movie has lots of cast. Oh yeah, this is way in development.
And I think Kristen Ritter is also attached to be in this now as well. But Jim Carrey coming back as Dr. Robotnik. For anyone that saw the second one, it seemed like he died at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert if you guys haven't seen it. But they didn't find his body at the end. There's like a post-credit scene where they were like kind of digging up where like his demise was supposed to be. But they did not find his body there. Jim Carrey, as you know, Jim Carrey's been really picky about it's so weird because like, I'm looking on like release date Rewind. Mark is doing basically a 3-part in one episode about 1994 and Jim Carrey, because he came out with Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber in the same year. So like back to back. So like, to be around for when Jim Carrey ruled the world during that time, like beginning in 94 and then through the early 2000s, he was everywhere. And then I think lately he just been more selective about what he does, but he has really loved doing these Sonic the Hedgehog movies, and
he's so fitting for as Robotnik. So
yeah. And they've done well. And you know what? I usually give shit to video game movies, but
usually
both of those movies, both of those movies did just right. I mean, all I could say was if you are a fan of the games, like whether you play them with your kid or my brother has continued to play them. I stopped playing.
I haven't played them a long time ago. Decades, but
but apparently they're still around and still viable.
They were a lot of fun.
But they appeal to people who loved it back then and loved it now. So And they embrace what they are fully. They are very much video game adaptations. And I know I made that comment about like the humans coming back, but I think these two movies have done a good job, because usually the human characters are like, I don't really care. Like, why are they there? I just want to care about the other stuff.
Right.
But they actually, both movies did a good job of balancing those two elements. Like James Marsden's connection with Sonic is like a really interesting part of the story, and like the friendship that they form and is actually a pretty interesting part of the story too. And Tika Sumpter plays James Marsden's wife in the movie, and their relationship with Sonic is interesting too. So I think it's hard to balance that, and they found a way to really do it, and they've made a lot of money so far. And this third one is coming out, I guess, this year in December.
December.
And I guess they're introducing Shadow in this one, which I guess is like another big antagonist character from the games that I was not a part of it when I was playing it. I had tapped out by then.
Okay.
My brother knew who it was. My brother knew who it was, so I was like, oh, cool. That's great. But yeah, I think it's cool that Jim Carrey's coming back. He loves doing them, and he speaks very highly of. And director Jeff Fowler said he loves working with Jim Carrey. Like, says no ego at all. So that's
He's
really
like
cool,
a down to earth kind of guy.
Yeah, and I love how they're going with what's consistent and what's worked so far in all of these Sonic the Hedgehog movies.
Definitely. Well, great on. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I take that for them, and I'm glad he's coming back. I kind of assumed he would be, even though he is the main villain of the games, and of course when you play Sonic the Hedgehog, even when I played it, you destroy him at the end of every game, and he comes back. So
maybe it's sort of a meta sort of thing.
You massively he dies in several explosions at the end of some of these games that you're playing. So it makes sense that he would come back. So I'm glad he is. This should be fun.
Yeah.
And I believe I'm trying to figure out the exact date in December. I'm gonna pull it up right now. I think it's at the end of the year.
There's nothing on IMDb, I see. So
that might come out. I think it's December 20th. Is when it's coming out this year.
Oh, right. No, there is. Yeah. Okay.
And just God, I just remember what I loved about how this all turned out. Remember when that first trailer for Sonic came out, and everyone was like thoroughly disgusted with how he looked. And this was the one time I thought the internet got it right. And then the studio was like, "Hey, we hear you. This looks bad." And they went back and they just redid the whole thing, redid all of the effect shots of Sonic,
and they made him look better.
Yeah, and they earned a lot of goodwill, and I think that's why those movies have done well, because they listen to fans in a really positive way. And the internet's not always great, because sometimes fan discourse is like, don't listen to them, like they're just talking. But that made sense because he did look great.
It was Cats level bad.
Yeah, it was really bad, and I'm glad that they listened. Just to, it ended up working out. But yeah.
I can't believe that movie came out. The first one came out in 2020. I thought it was older than that, but that's
it was right before.
3 and 4 years.
I think it came out right before before the March stuff shut everything down. So it made its money just in time.
Yeah,
where everything shut
3
down.
movies in 4 years is impressive.
Yep,
and to all be relatively well received and everything.
And I think the second one made more than the first movie. So, and the fact that they're releasing, it at the end of December, that's a good time that they probably want a lot of families to go see it. It'll probably be even more successful than the second one.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that,
because
I kind of low key like both of them.
I haven't seen either of them, but they do look like a fun time.
I wouldn't sing it from the rooftops or anything, but they were
good, mindless fun. Yeah,
they were pleasant in the moment. All right, what do we got going on next? Is it the Jurassic World?
What did you make of that? So it looks like oh man, who was the director? Oh, David Leitch,
which we didn't cover this because we had an Oscar show when they announced they were making another Jurassic World, but we did put on our story that they were making another one, and I just wasn't excited, even though the writer wrote Jurassic Park, which is great. He wrote the first movie. But then he also wrote the Lost World Jurassic Park, which is not that good.
Okay.
So this is not. So there's take it however you want to take it. And but we didn't know much about it, except they were like, oh well, it might be. We don't know if they're going to use Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard. They're going to use any of the original people. But what we know now is that it looks like it's going to be a fresh new Jurassic era story, and David Leitch is in talks to direct it. That is inspiring because I mean he did Deadpool 2 and Bullet Train, so that'd be the first time a director that's done movies like that that would take on.
He also did Hobbs and Shaw, like the Fast and Furious spinoff, and he's, for whatever reason, an uncredited director on John Wick. I can't remember who the actual credited director is, but I think he had a hand in making that movie too. And he has a career as a stuntman before. So part of me is like, okay, it makes sense that he'd be attached to like a big epic action-y movie, but I wouldn't have pegged him for something like dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
Me
like,
either. Well, it seems like he has a good relationship with Universal right now because I guess he also did the Fall Guy, and they are really high up on. I guess Universal is like excited about it.
Okay.
And I was kind of excited when I heard that he was attached to it, but I still like that last movie was so bad. I almost fell asleep. That's how bad it was. And and what frustrated me the most about it is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom wasn't great either, but it ended on a note that was so interesting. I was like, oh, like let's see where that goes. Like I thought
agreed.
And they killed that in like the first 5 minutes of Dominion. They're like, all that interesting shit at the end of the Fallen Kingdom. No, we're not going that route.
Dominion sounds literally they had a pretty great. They were set up for a home run, even though the Fallen Kingdom wasn't great. Dominion had a home run pitch to start with, and they literally like struck out looking. Like it was terrible from what I didn't even bother seeing it, but I've watched enough reviews and breakdowns of it that like, I know the plot, and I don't know why they decided to focus on like a big locust horde instead of actual dinosaurs. What? So, but that being said, if it's as long as it's an original story, I think like Jurassic Park has enough like gas in the tank. It's a great concept. Like there's no competing dinosaur movies, and like it's the ones that have worked have been awesome. So
I think 65 tried and failed.
Right, there's that. But as a franchise, anything like genuinely holding a candle to Jurassic Park, there's really nothing. And I think it's interesting enough that I'm down to see more if it's done right. And David Leitch is like a good director to tackle it, but I'm not really heads or tails on this movie. I don't really care if it was canned.
I love social media. I love social media right now. Just they've already
shut it down.
People already created. No, they've already created like concept art with like the dinosaurs having like guns and like
like an AI prompt or something.
Like turning it into like like a bullet train style like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, movie. Look at his filmography, like John Wick, Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, a Fast and Furious spinoff movie, and Bullet Train. Those are all like grounded. I use that spirit or cautiously, but like fun actiony stunt romps. Like those are nothing like. It's funny that you say that. So the internet is sort of hijacking the concept. That's hilarious because that's all. They all seem more or less in the same vein of each other, give or take a couple. But yeah,
you know what also concerns me about this? It already has a release date of July 2nd, 2025. That is a quick turnaround for a movie like this. Like someone said, based on scale and scope and the amount of like, let's say, like a typical Jurassic Park movie, someone said that he would probably have to start shooting that this summer. And it just seems like so. It just seems like it's so quick to turn something like this around. Like we went from having like after Dominion, I was like, I would hope they would put this to bed for like a really long time.
Right.
And I get why they didn't, because like even though Dominion got awful reviews, it made $1 billion worldwide because people love dinosaurs.
And that's why we're in the boat that we're in right now, of course.
Yeah.
But to your point, he's not even, that's not even a credit on his upcoming director's credits on IMDb right now. So that is, there is nothing in development on this movie yet other than he's slated to direct. That's crazy.
Like he's in talks to do it. And I mean, and there's no casting yet. So I would imagine I would think a movie of this size to get it done before summer 2025, you would have to start doing it soon. But that quick turnaround concerns me because that's like, if you rush something like this, then it's not going to be good. But I mean, I guess you can't go anywhere else but up after Dominion.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm also hoping that with somebody like him that has a stunt background that shoots things for the most part, I don't know about his effects, but his stunt work practically as possible. I hope that is lent to this Jurassic Park movie if he does end up directing it, because when those movies were done practically, they were done the best. So I hope he recognizes that and decides to film them that way. Not that it's easy by any means, but you know what? Might
You're gonna
save a
have
buck.
velociraptors doing like wire work, man. It's gonna be like that, like slow motion kung fu. I don't know. It's funny in my head. I mean,
Yeah,
but like,
definitely. But Spielberg made
of
it
all
work.
the
So
of all the directors who have taken on the franchise, including Spielberg, like this is the most. This director seems very off the
brand.
norm of what they've used so far to make these movies. So, I mean, that kind of got me excited, but then I was like, that last one was awful. Then I was like, well, then the guy writing it wrote Jurassic Park, and I was like, well, but he wrote the second one.
Is it Michael Crichton or is it like the screenplay
No,
writer?
he wrote the screenplay writer. Michael Crichton wrote the books, but I think his name is David Cope. That's Koepp. He wrote the first movie, but it was great. But then Lost World Jurassic Park, for those who want to revisit it, and I know some people do like it. It's not. I don't like it. It's awful. I feel weird saying about a Spielberg movie. I still cannot stand that.
I don't think it's awful, but like it's not the first. That's for sure. The first is like one of my all-time favorites. I can't stand
that like tacked on last 15 minutes of the T-Rex like storming through San Diego.
See, I love that part.
Someone else I know loves that part too.
Yeah.
All right, maybe I'm
not necessarily how it fits into the narrative, but the fact that we see a T-Rex on the loose in like actual like civilization, I'm like, that is awesome. I love that. But I can't remember how it all stacks up.
When I first saw it, I was like, this is not in the book, right? And they're like, no, it's not. I was like, oh, of course it's not.
When it eats the dog, man. I remember as a kid, I was like, no. And then it's like stomping down like a highway. Like, dude, that is awesome.
And I used to think it was a studio thing that they added that. Spielberg was all about that. Well, the Spielberg was all about that. I was like, all right. I mean, I guess whatever.
Okay.
It was just weird and out of place. And I remember when I rewatched it before. We went to go see Dominion. That's probably why I had a bad taste in my mouth before seeing Dominion. And when I watched Jurassic World, I was like, this is still stupid. Like it's so dumb because it's like the movie's already long too. And like it's like Lost World is long, and it feels like it ends before the San Diego stuff. And then now it's just.
In fairness, I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't remember how it's constructed, but I'm kind of thinking I don't remember how that T-Rex was able to get loose in San Diego in the first place. Don't tell me it smuggles aboard a boat or something. Like how does this?
Well, they have it like in like it's like in this crate, and they're taking it away from like, and then it gets out, and then they runs through the streets of San Diego, and then it's dog, and it's like it reminded me of like. Then I remember I saw Godzilla. Like I think that next year. I think it was that next year that one came out with Matthew Broderick. No, the one with the one with like Matthew, I forgot who directed, but Matthew. No, the guy who directed.
Is that not Ang Lee? Oh, Roland Emmerich, right? I'm thinking of the Hulk. Yeah.
And I was reminded of that, and I was like, "Yeah, this is also bad."
Maybe this like Spielberg was trying to, maybe he's trying to emulate like King Kong or something, and
that could have been it.
Not that it means it's good, but
yeah. But I guess what I'm trying to say is there are some good things attached to this new one. It does feel like they are fast tracking it. They're admitting that they're fast tracking it. Universal is making it a priority.
Well, I don't like that, but as long as it's a new direction, I'm on board.
Yeah, I mean, and like we didn't know we needed one when we got Jurassic World. Like, because I actually liked Jurassic World, the first one we got. I thought that was like a solid like kind of return to form almost like not nearly as good as Jurassic Park, but much better than.
I like Jurassic World. I would throw that on for fun sometime and not have a bad time. There's lots to love about it. Bryce Dallas Howard, and then Fallen Kingdom gets me though.
Yeah, that was a big big criticism.
Take them off.
And then I remember the second one. I was like, okay, this is weird. Like the tone is weird. Like it feels like a Jurassic Park movie. Then the last 30 minutes feels like it's a weird horror movie in a mansion for some reason.
That was weird. But ends on a good note. But there's a lot of weird things going on with that one.
But mark your calendar, July 2nd, 2025. That's when it's coming out.
If I don't know, I can see that getting pushed. But in any case, one more thing before we get to box office, and you sent me this. I know nothing about it. Supposedly we have an Evil Dead spinoff show in the works.
It looks
another
like
Evil Dead show because we already have one.
Yeah, it might. I can't tell. I don't know if it's gonna be a show or a movie. It looks like it might be a movie actually.
Oh, okay. I thought I read show when you sent it to me.
I thought it was interesting that it's not a sequel to Evil Dead Rise, and I guess this is like the direction that they're going. I don't know this director, Sebastian. I'm going to butcher your last name, Vinisek, assuming.
Okay.
He made his feature debut with Infested, and they really liked. I guess that came out last year. Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert really liked it. They run Ghost House Productions or Pictures. That is where Evil Dead is housed, and they are tasking him with directing an untitled Evil Dead spinoff movie. No plot details are available at this time. No information, but I guess what they want to do is for the Evil Dead franchise is for Sam Raimi to hand pick hot and up and coming filmmakers to put their own spin on the Evil Dead stories. So that kind of started with Fede Alvarez with the remake in 2013, continued with Lee Cronin with Evil Dead Rise last year, and that movie was very successful. $147 million globally on a $12 million budget. So
that worked.
The only thing it's interesting is that it's not a direct sequel. They said spinoff, so I don't know what they're kind of doing with this stuff really. But
you know what? I know this is a complete shot in the dark, but Evil Dead Rise did give us some spinoff material with the whole collection of records that they find buried underneath the apartment complex. So that would really be really cool. I know there was some speculation at the time. We talked about that when we saw the movie, that it would be cool to explore further. I'd be down for that. But the thing with the universe is like, you can just plop the Necronomicon anywhere in history and then have some poor soul come across it and then have a great Evil Dead story. Like, it's one of those projects that can just really work anywhere. And it seems like destined for spin-off material.
Yep. And then,
I'm excited for that.
Evil Dead Rise was actually surprisingly good. So I actually, other better horror movies came out, or a better one later that I still need to watch when Evil Lurks. I actually might watch that tonight.
Oh my god, yes, you do. I forgot it was only last year. Yeah, that's right.
But I loved Evil Dead Rise when I saw it in theaters. I haven't watched it again since, which is weird. I usually I have it on 4K. I just haven't watched it again.
Oh jeez, they did a 4K already. That's crazy.
But good. But I actually liked Evil Dead Rise, and but yeah, I actually see your point now. There is more potential, more than like doing a direct sequel where you could spin off and kind of branch off all these different stories. I know, because like some people want the main girl from the remake 2013 remake to come back and be like, that's why they want it to be like a direct sequel. But I know I actually like the idea of Sam Raimi kind of picking like these kind of really cool up and coming directors to like put their fresh spin on these different aspects of the Evil Dead universe. I think that's really cool that he's doing that, and also giving directors like that. I mean, because he that started out as like a bare bones project for him back in the day, and for him to kind of give that to other directors now, I think is really cool with his own.
Give them the chance that he really had to fight for himself. Seems like he's a pretty in-touch guy.
Yeah, because it kind of seems like maybe he has tapped, like he's kind of as far as story wise, he's like, maybe I don't have any more stories to tell in the Evil Dead universe, and maybe other people do. And he's open to that, so I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, but that's all we know. No plot details or anything like that.
Well, I guess stay tuned for more development on that.
Yep. And box office is not great.
Honestly, like before this, I don't know what I said last week, but like I'm not exactly surprised. I didn't really foresee a great like punch from this movie, so. Yeah, it didn't do anything to impress me, but we both came in a little bit over from the actual. I know you have the number, but we were both off.
Both off.
Came in under.
Yeah, it came in even below its tracking. So it grossed $17.4 million. Now the actuals are out. Originally it was at 18. It came down below that in actuals. 35, I believe, million opening globally. Not good for a $200 million movie.
Oh my god, that's right.
There was
that's
a really interesting. There's a really interesting article in Variety about, because this is also an Apple production, and they're releasing it through Universal first, and then of course it'll be on their platform. And we made excuses for like the $200 million budgets plus budgets for Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon, and there's more incentive for that, I guess. More awards potential, at least with Killers of the Flower Moon. They probably thought more with Napoleon. That didn't really end up happening, but more prestige, and then attracting filmmakers to do movies on their service and like give them all this money, and then also give them a theatrical release. That does work, I guess, in favor for prestige projects, and Apple does have a lot of money to spend. But I don't know if it works in the case of an Argyle, because I don't see it having life outside of I don't see it having like a great life on their platform either.
I think
like,
this movie was made for the cinema, and it did not resonate with cinema goers at all.
No. And
I think this movie was
example,
marketed poorly too.
It was
Very
a lot of people. So that was one of the reasons. So it got a C+ cinema score too. So a lot of people said they felt misled by the trailers, which they don't think so did appropriately. This is also another example because Matthew Vaughn said that he wanted to make a trilogy. I don't know if he's going to be able to now.
Why is that flavor of the month, man? Why does everything need to be a trilogy from the get-go? It's so annoying to me, but I'm glad then that this is not doing well. Like, hopefully that deters people from doing that.
But yeah, I said 23. I was way off.
I was only one below you at 22.
One below me, but Jackson gets this one just because being closer to the actual $17.4 million opening. Right. I don't like when a good cast gets wins. This is a really good cast. It's a fun idea. I just don't think it was just marketed properly, like you said. Like you could make this fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 2 hours and 19 minutes also unnecessary. Like wholly unnecessary.
Henry Cavill's top cast. He's featured first on the poster. He's in a bunch of the marketing. He apparently, from what I heard, he's got 5 minutes of screen time, maybe.
I also heard Dua Lipa is not in it that long either. But I kind of figured that might be the case. But they said
she's a singer.
They said,
that's a film debut too.
Well, they do movies sometimes.
Yes, they do, but this didn't feel like she's trying to make.
Seconds.
This didn't feel to me like a singer trying to make a career out of acting. It seemed like she was cast there because for popularity's sake.
She's pretty.
But so that makes sense. But that's fine with me.
But yeah, she's apparently. I think someone wrote down like it's almost like she performed on the Grammys last night, and they said her Grammy performance was longer than her screen time.
Oh boy,
and Argyle. I guess it just didn't work. And I think Matthew Vaughn, this feels like a very self-indulgent project too. Like it's very
it does.
Like he maybe thought it was much better in his brain.
I think so.
Execution.
Also, like the whole marketing, but behind like the slogan from the twisted mind of Matthew Vaughn, that just sounds wrong from the get-go.
Yeah.
He hasn't had like a really successful hit since Kingsman, the first one. The next two after that aren't terribly received, but they're not great by any means. I don't think that there's much of a market for Matthew Vaughn at the moment, and this, like you said, felt very self-indulgent. There's something else I was about to say about it too. Just harkening back to the poster, that's exactly this is a textbook example of what I was talking about earlier about
just the whole cast.
The whole cast in a flying V in goose formation. They're all looking at different directions. Like that's just so stupid to me. I don't know. I don't like it. I didn't like this movie from the first time I saw the trailer, and it's the only trailer they had for it.
Yeah, I don't think we got another theatrical one.
I don't think so either.
I know sometimes we complain and like, they gave us too much, but like I could have taken a different cut or a different flip on a different approach from it. Also, someone brought up an interesting point about Henry Cavill. He gets mentioned. I like him, and I have no problem. I think he's a good actor, but he gets mentioned a lot in the grand scheme of like popularity amongst like film nerds. But he is not a box office draw either. And someone actually pointed that out today that he really isn't. And
he's been in a lot of flops.
I think the world tries to make him out to be one, and it's not his fault, really. I mean, like the whole Superman thing was his fault. He got dealt a bad hand. He deserved another shot on his own after Man of Steel, not like Batman versus Superman, not Justice League. He deserved his own shot again in like a legit Man of Steel sequel, and he never got it. What was that? The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was actually a good movie, but that movie flopped too. So like
the Witcher series kind of tanked after, and that was like he was born and bred for that, and it just didn't pan out.
The Mission Impossible, the one that he's in, I think it's which one is he in?
The one before Dead Reckoning.
Is it Fallout? Is that Fallout?
Fallout. Yes, I was ranking there. Thank you.
So that was a hit, but like not because of him. So
no, he's a very secondary character in that movie.
Yeah. So I mean, I hope for the best for him. I think he's a good actor, but I think the internet and fandom builds him up to be maybe a bigger draw than he is.
He's an anomaly where he's a well-recognized actor. He gets credit for being a good actor. He's just notorious for being in these like ill-fated projects, but at least that people still like and appreciate his talents. He's talented. I don't think any of these movies falling or failing are to do with him, but he just seems to have really bad luck in terms of the movies that he's cast in. However, he does look great in Guy Ritchie's upcoming film, The Ministry of Gentlemanly Warfare, which is a trailer that we should break down here.
Oh, soon. we should actually add that trailer to the list of trailers.
Yeah. So hopefully that goes good. Even though The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was a Guy Ritchie movie too, was it not? And you said it flopped?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think it was too. Yeah. Argyle has a 36 Metascore. That's crazy low.
That's really
wow.
bad.
It must just be genuinely bad. I heard it was bloated, long.
Yeah, I heard some people that
bad.
in the beginning that loved it, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh nope, there are more regular people seeing it. I think someone I know gave it a 1.5 out of like 5. I was like,
oh okay, on Letterboxd.
I was like, that's not good. I was like, all right, but yeah, not good. Definitely not a good start. And I don't think this weekend's box office is going to be any better, but we'll see. We are predicting Lisa Frankenstein this week. That's the only major wide release.
Right.
Hell, here's the deal. It's Super Bowl weekend. Super Bowl is going to be dominating most of everyone's attention on Sunday. So
definitely,
people, studios typically don't release big movies on this weekend because they know that Sunday is going to like take a dip. But sometimes female skewing movies do really well on this weekend. You can go all the way back to like She's All That back in the day in 1999 that came out Super Bowl weekend. Dear John with Channing Tatum and Amanda Seyfried came out Super Bowl weekend, that did well. When a Stranger Calls, that remake did really well
on
Super Bowl weekend. So it really depends on the movie. But no matter what they do on like the Friday, Saturday, there's always a big dip because they're expecting 100 million plus to watch the Super Bowl on Sunday. But Lisa Frankenstein looks like it, even though it looks very weird and offbeat, it looks like it skews more towards the ladies, and it's written by Diablo Cody, who's famous for doing Juno and Jennifer's Body. Like I said, the trailer I actually liked. It looks all right. Definitely feels more offbeat.
Yeah,
but a horror comedy on this weekend. I'm picking up box office tracking right now to see what it's tracking at. So on the low end, $9 million opening weekend, and the high end, $14 million.
Oh
and
wow!
Bear in mind that it's also Super Bowl Sunday this weekend.
Okay, yeah.
But they're saying that it is getting a good push via TikTok and social media. So maybe that it might connect with its audience through that.
My heart tells me go low end, just only because the Super Bowl, but it's got Catherine Newton, who's big MCU draw, at least for the last couple phases. She's Cassie Lang. So I think that this might appeal to some younger audiences too. What is this movie rated actually, before I even say that? Is it 14A, so still younger like that. I think that's still fitting. And then Cole Sprouse too, right?
Is that Riverdale?
I think Riverdale, Zach and Cody. Yeah. I think it's Cole. Yeah, it is Cole Sprouse. It's funny he's credited as the creature.
Yeah.
So I think this movie will do well considering the weekend that it's being released, but I still want to go low, and for that reason I'm just gonna put it at the low end of tracking and go with 9 million. Keep it easy. What about you?
I'm gonna price this right. You just go 9.5.
Smart. Next week you're going first. So as of now, our tally's at 2-0 in favor of myself. We had a draw, a wash the first week that we started in 2024. So this next week is a big one. You can half that lead, or I'll pull away depending on how this
dominating.
Does.
Yeah,
but there's a lot. There's still a lot of weeks left in 2024.
So a lot of weeks left. And to give you a little other updates in box office, The Beekeeper is still doing surprisingly well. $49 million gross so far. I believe the budget was $35 million. It has made 122.5 million worldwide. So good for you, Jason Statham and David Ayer. Wonka is still in the top 5. It has finally crossed the $200 million mark domestically, $201 million. Worldwide it has grossed $572.4 million. And now I'm wondering if I need Doom Part 2 to overtake this, because I can see Doom Part 2 being the bigger Timothée Chalamet movie. Mean Girls still doing well, even though it's having considerable drops each week. $66 million domestically so far, and it's getting close to 100 million worldwide, 92.5 million, but also on a very slim $35 million budget. And Anyone But You still going strong, proving rom-coms are still going well. 76.2 million domestic on a $25 million budget, and it has made $151.7 million worldwide. True definition of a word of mouth hit, because like opening weekend, I'm looking at right now with $6 million. And that's what that means.
Yeah, that has had a big rebound. Yeah.
It's had some legs, and they are for Valentine's Day weekend releasing an extended cut of Anyone But You to get people, I guess, give it another boost over the holiday. So that's smart. To do that, because its only competition on Valentine's Day is going to be Madam Web. So, so there's that.
And Morbius of this year. I can't wait for that. Oh my!
I got my official screening invite.
I saw that.
Pictures,
I saw that
Sony
today,
Pictures Studios. That's the only exciting part is like Sony Pictures.
Okay.
But yeah, that's some box office updates for you. But we needed to turn around though, because it's been really slow. It's been a slow start to the year. They said we're 13% behind this point last year, box office wise. But I think it'll rebound pretty soon. Hopefully, March is probably going to be with Doom Part 2. I think it starts there.
Yeah,
and that's
I agree.
When,
a couple weeks away.
But yeah, I will say this: we were going to talk about some trailers, but we're going to cut those for time. But I think what we can do, since the Super Bowl is going to have like a ton of movie ads on Sunday, they're speculating Deadpool 3, possibly Twisters, another Glenn Powell movie, is a sequel to Twister. They said Maxine might have a spot, but I can't see A24 spending. I can't see A24 spending $7 million on a 30-second ad, but maybe
that's the good point.
They're also said A Quiet Place Day 1 might have a spot as well. Wicked might have a spot, even though that'd be weird seems like anti-football to have a musical spot.
Yeah, true.
But there are going to be a few, and there are other trailers that we want to talk to you about today, but maybe we'll just throw those into a whole trailer breakdown episode along with the Super Bowl trailers, and kind of throw them out, you guys. Then, but yeah, that's about it for us.
Your turn to sign us off.
I know, very dense news day, right? Episode 149. It's hard for us to do these now because we've had like special bonus episodes, and then we've also labeled some with a number that haven't been released yet. So yeah, so
we think it's
as of now, we're somewhere in there. We're somewhere. Episode 149 of Back to the Blockbuster. We just want to let you know, in addition to that impromptu trailer episode that we just kind of came up with right now, we have our anniversary episodes lined up for February. So we put a poll up, and we have Friday the 13th coming at you, the remake. Also October Sky and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So our anniversaries are from 3 totally different genres this month. We got horror, drama, and comedy. So that'll be a fun thing to get thrown into the mix. And then we're also excited for what we're going to be giving you also in February. I don't want to give away the episode yet, but Jackson had a really good idea for an episode that we're going to do in February, that we really want to do different episodes kind of like this in the month, because we don't want to just rely on news and the anniversaries. I think we kind of learned that during the writer's strike, that we can come up with different ideas to fill in
Keep
space. So that's what we're going to do with that. So make sure you look out for those as well. And apparently our YouTube page will be up and running. They said this week playlist. So make sure that you look out for us on there as well. I actually got you guys can't see this now, but Jackson has these like LED lights in his room, and I actually just got some. They're not on yet, but I'm just gonna test out some stuff since we're gonna be on camera more officially on camera. So gonna try out some different things visually to kind of make this more aesthetically appealing, other than having like the movie rack in the background.
That's a great background. I need to switch up too. I need some more movie memorabilia.
I have this big poster wall that's this way that I could do, but I don't know. We'll see. Well, we're gonna try different things on the YouTube channel with a lot more content on there as well. Just a different way for you guys to find us and support us. And another step in helping the podcast grow. So we're really looking forward to getting that started as well. But in the meantime, if you like what you hear, make sure you follow us on all of our socials at Back to the Blockbuster. That's on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter/X. And then you can also find us wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods. They are all very, very great to listen to us on, but we want you to support the Playlist Studio app because they are a podcast network and they have been very, very good to us, especially lately because we crank out a lot of episodes and they get them out just in time and edit them so very nicely for us. So please make sure you support that app in the iOS store, or if you have one of those pesky Samsung phones, you can find it in your Google Play Store as well. And make sure you support some of the other shows on their network too, because there are a few other movie page shows on their podcast network as well. And they also have other like travel, exercise, different types of shows for your listening pleasure in addition to us. And I think that about wraps it up. Thank you, Jackson, for always being a good sport. Signing off here on this very gloomy, rainy day here in Los Angeles.
And a freezing one in New Brunswick.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, but still shitty weather for both of us. So at least we can relate on that level.
Yes, it's been a pleasure.
It will be talking to you again soon. So
yes. All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you next week.